Radical Red might not be the most insane Pokemon ROM hack, but it's certainly the poster boy for difficulty ROM hacks. Last week, I beat Radical Red's hardcore mode using only K9 Pokemon, and I thought to myself, I probably should have recorded that. But then, I had the idea of doing a mono cat run in hardcore mode. Why am I doing this? Well, I wanted to place some restrictions on myself to make the hardcore mode a bit more challenging, and monotype runs are pretty overdone at this point. But before we get into it, we have to first define what a cat Pokemon is, and I've broken it down into 3 categories. See what I did there? 1. Definitely a cat. Pokemon like Persian, Meowscarada, Purugly, and all these other Pokemon on screen are very obviously cats. It's pretty self-explanatory. 2. Probably a cat. Pokemon in this category are mostly feline, but could be debatable. Evolutions like Espeon and Umbreon are a mix between several animals, but the feline features are dominant, and I will be counting these as cats. 3. Doesn't look like a cat. This is going to be the most controversial category. Suicune and Entei have a good amount of K9 features, but the designer of these Pokemon based Suicune on a leopard and Entei on a lion. Absol is based on a mythological Chinese creature called the Bai, which is described as some sort of cat, tiger, dragon thing. I'll admit, this category could be considered a reach, but even with these Pokemon, it's not like we're going to break the game. Combining all of these categories together gives us a total of 22 fully evolved Pokemon with access to 10 of the 18 types and 1 Mega Evolution. With that out of the way, let's go over the in-game settings and other restrictions I will be placing on myself. 1. Difficulty is set to hardcore mode and by default minimal grinding mode. For those not familiar with Radical Red's hardcore mode, certain abilities and moves are not usable by the player. For example, you can't use abilities that set weather and terrain, you can't use stat boosting moves or entry hazards. Most Pokemon don't have access to Toxic and Leech Seed, and there's some other things, but you get the idea. Also, some boss fights have extra shenanigans automatically enabled, like permanent weather, terrains, and tailwind that last throughout the entire battle. These are going to require some creative solutions on my part. 2. No randomizer settings will be used. This one should be kind of obvious, but the point of the Mono Cat run is to see if we can beat the game using only our feline friends with their natural abilities and move pools that they come with. 3. In-game cheats will be enabled. This is to skip past all the grindy stuff. I've beaten Radical Red a couple of times without cheats, and I just want to get straight to the point with this run. Some of you might frown upon me for using infinite rare candies or finding anything I want in the Dex Nav, and I don't care. This run is about me throwing cats at people's faces and seeing how far I get. 4. Anything in-game is fair game. What does that mean? Let's use Solgaleo for this example. Normally, it's not available until the post-game, but you can get Cosmog by hatching Wonder Eggs. So if you see me soft resetting Wonder Eggs until I get Cosmog, mind your business. 5. I will be abusing save states. Now is the part where I have to admit I'm not actually good at this game. The pool of feline Pokemon isn't looking too great, hardcore mode has a lot of jank built into it, and the enemy AI is pretty well optimized, so I'll be using a butt ton of save states to even the odds. Now that we're all on the same page of what to expect, let's get into it. Right off the bat, I have 2 options when it comes to starters, Litten and Sprigatito. I decided to go with Sprigatito for a couple of reasons. 1, it's going to make the Brock and Misty fights a bit easier, and 2, every other time I've played Radical Red, I've gone with a fire starter, so I'm kind of sick of seeing my rival with this Primal Kyogre nonsense, and I want to shake things up by fighting a different team. So I pick up the Grass Cat, kick my rival's butt, head up to Viridian City, get the package, go back to Oak's Lab, get my damn Pokedex, and the Time Changer skill, and that town map, typical early game stuff. When I get back to Viridian, I go ahead and snag me those rare candies. I'm going to abuse this early and get my Sprigatito to evolve into a Florigato. After that, I go north to Viridian so I can get the Teachy TV and that first care package. And now, I'm feeling like it's time to catch some cats. I go back to Route 1 and use my handy dandy Dex Nav to get myself a regular boring ass Kanto Meowth, and I do have that easy catch cheat turned on, so this is going to be a pretty speedy process. We got this cat in the bag and get a nugget for it too. We're going to throw a bunch of rare candies at it, change it to nighttime, and repeat the process for Galarian Meowth. Still keeping it nighttime, I go ahead and go to Route 2, catch a Shinx, turn that into a Luxio, and going back in the daytime, we can get the Litleo while we're here as well. And we get a red shard, which will be useful later when we need to get Litten. And of course, we're going to prescribe Litleo the maximum amount of rare candies that we possibly can. Now that we have all the cats in the area, I figure now is a good time to change their natures. Adamant for the two Meowths since they have Fake Out, and Speedy natures for everyone else. And with that, we are ready for our first real rival battle. But here starts off with that Snubble, gets the Intimidate in, and I go for the Galarian Meowth to get Tough Claw's Fake Out. He obviously flinches, and we get that free damage. But decides to switch out the Snubble for the Charmander to get that type advantage, and I go for the regular Meowth. Now, just a reminder, I already used save states and played out this battle, so I know exactly what's going to happen. I'm like Doctor Strange up in here, and the optimal play was to go for the Fake Out and False Swipe to get rid of that Charmander. So he goes back into that Snubble. He really likes this Intimidate. And I'm just going to go back into that Galarian Meowth again. Unfortunately, I do get paralyzed because Snubble gets Thunder Wave for some reason. But I still go for that Fake Out just to get some more free damage. So Slowpoke comes in, and now it's time for Luxio to just automatically kill this thing with a Spark. Critical hit. I'm not sure if that was necessary, but it happened. And the final Pokemon is that Snubble that's been running from us this entire time. So at this point, I still have all my Pokemon. I'm not really caring about switching in, switching out. So Thundercat stays in, does a bunch of sparks, does a lot of damage, paralyzes. Not that it matters, because we can just finish it off with a Fake Out. With that, Rival Butt has been defeated. I go back to the Pokemon Center and go straight into the next rival fight, which is against Brendan. So Brendan here starts off with that Metatite. I go for my Grass Cat, and now I'm on the receiving end of a Fake Out. Kind of sucks, but not a big deal. Go for the Razor Leaf. Try to get as much damage on this thing as we possibly can. He's doing some Rock Tombs, lowering my speed. And it is not that great of a time, but we do get rid of that Metatite, which is a big problem. Fighting kind of ruins me here. But he does have that Trico with the Power-Up Punch, which is a fighting move. And I still have this problem where pretty much by the end of it, my entire team will be weak to fighting moves, because anyone that's not weak now will be weak later. He gets off a couple Rock Tombs, I get off a couple Embers, and his Trico's still sitting pretty nice, pretty good amount of health there. I come into the regular Meowth, and the Technician, the Fake Out, the Fury Swipes, this thing hits pretty hard for early game, and something I thought would be kind of useless is actually pretty nice. 4 on the Fury Swipes gets the KO, and of course he brings out that Corphish, and now is a perfect time for freaking Thundercat to come in and just spark this thing to oblivion. And this guy is also an MVP. I'm kind of, the early game team here is kind of nice. Not too bad. He gets off the Bulldoze with the Numel, and I just instantly fold. Go back into that regular Meowth, and again, Fake Out and Fury Swipes is going to clean up. Kind of the MVP of my team right now. And with that, rival Brendan is defeated, and I get all the stuff, the experience share, this, whatever that is. Yep, and that seals off the second rival fight. So after the Brendan fight, I go back to the Pokemon Center, heal up, do a bunch of regular battles, nobody cares. And then we get to our first mini-boss, which is this lass right here. She starts off with the Stuffle, and again, I don't really like fighting types, but I do have a couple Pokemon that can handle it right now, Thundercat being one of them. And we're going to stuff the Stuffle with Sparks, and we do get the Paralysis, which is kind of nice. Get a couple times where it can't move. And I'm thinking I might want to save the Thundercat for later. So I switch to Grass Cat, eats a freaking critical hit, and I just clap back with Razor Leaf, get rid of the Stuffle. Now we got to fight this Audino, who is the toughest Pokemon on this team by far. It's got Yawn, it's got Wish, it's got Protect. It's just very annoying to fight against. So I'm trying to get a couple Tail Whips in so I can hopefully kill this thing with one hit. It gets us with Swagger. We're confused, but luckily we're getting past confusion every time, landing these Razor Leafs, and eventually getting this kill. And the last Pokemon we have to fight is Clefairy. And Grass Cat's got the Swagger boost, so I kind of just want to stay here and Razor Leaf for as long as possible. Hilariously enough, it gets Metronome and the Wake Up Slap, so it does a decent amount of damage there. And again, we're just clicking Razor Leaf until we win, and we do eventually beat this chick. Beating that last does give us the Infinite Repel, which is amazing. We will be using it because we don't want to get through this as fast as possible, but we do just want to skip all the nonsense. So I will be using that Infinite Repel, and we will only be catching the necessary Pokemon for this run. After I heal up again, we have our next mini-boss, which is the Bugcatcher at the end of the forest here. He goes ahead, he starts off with that Cricketune, which is decently powerful at this point in the game. I start off with the Meowth. I kind of just want the free fake out and the damage there. But he switches into Dustox, and I switch into my Galarian Meowth to avoid poison, and I go for another fake out. We're just going to keep on doing that because it works apparently at this point in the game. So launches off a couple side beams, doesn't really do too much against me. I Metal Claw and Metal Claw. I'm just going to keep on spamming Metal Claw. This guy goes for the Roost. This is a very slow paced battle right here. Going for the Protect, going for the freaking heal, going for side beams, hitting me for practically nothing. I got the Shell Bow. I'm getting a little bit back. And this is just a battle of attrition. Very, very boring stuff. But I know if I can keep landing these Metal Claws, I'll eventually get the attack boost. And I do. And this will go by a little bit quicker. I know I win this fight. And I get a critical hit in addition to the attack boost. So that thing goes down. That's great. And Volbeat comes in. Again, all these stage 1, decently powerful mons for this point in the game. I go back into the regular Meowth, and you already know what time it is. It is fake out time. It is time to break ankles, slap some faces, get that flinch, and go into that Fury Swipes. And we do land the magical 5 that we needed to take it out. And now we're just down to that one Kricketune, switching back into the Galarian Meowth. This is kind of my strategy at this point in the game until these Pokemon become kind of useless, until I get some better cats. And yeah, I leave Galarian Meowth in here. I just wanted that free fake out. I'll eat the Bulldoze. I don't think it's really going to be helping me in this fight anymore. And go back into the regular Meowth, fake out, Fury Swipes, and that will take it home. After that fight, we get our next care package, and nothing really too useful within the context of my team right here, but I'm sure this will help later on. I get up to Pewter City, and now we can catch the final cat that is available to us before the Falconer and Brock fights. That's going to be Esper. This one is female. It kind of matters, kind of doesn't. The male gets Prankster if it evolves into, Meowstic, and the female does get Competitive, I believe, but in Radical Red Hard mode, the female's unique ability will end up being the Clear Body. Yeah, that's what it is. But I kind of want the other ability, which is Feline Prowess, is going to double special attack. So I just go for the female. Normally, I think the male would be better, but whatever. We got the Esper. We're going to go ahead, take that, and we're going to use that Feline Prowess later on, hopefully, and it does something for our team here. But at the very least, we do have a Psychic type, which is a fighting resist, desperately needed for us. And of course, you know what it is by now. This thing is going to get rare candies until it can't possibly eat anymore. And with that, we are ready for the Falconer fight. Now, Falconer being a flying specialist does work out for us because we get to start off with that Thundercat, which is nice. It's going to be pulling a lot of weight here. And immediately it's going to come out the gate, Intimidate, and get the Spark, immediately killing that Trumbeak. Fantastic stuff. He goes for the Farfetch, the Galarian Farfetch, in its fighting type. And yes, you can see that our Esper, being Psychic, is already coming in handy. Eats a couple moves, gets off Psybeam, and just instantly gets rid of that Farfetch. We're looking really good right now. Squawkabilly comes out. I bring back Thundercat because that's a good matchup. Intimidate goes off, this thing aerial aces, and it doesn't really do too much. And at this point, I know the AI is going to switch, so I'm kind of debating what I should go into. And I should go into that trusty regular Meowth, get that fake out, get the Fury Swipes, get the free damage here. And of course, this thing has Berry Juice, but our Meowth does not care, gets the 5 hits, gets that KO anyways, MVP status. And I never thought the regular Meowth would be carrying me so hard throughout all these fights, but it is. And at this point, I'm going into Galarian Meowth, and you already know the strat. It's going to be fake out, but he's going to switch. Squawkabilly, not a big deal, free damage. And at this point, I'm thinking this Galarian Meowth ain't doing too many favors for me for the remaining Pokemon that he has, so I just stay in, get these Metal Claws going, and of course he reversals, I die, and that's that. But that's okay because we can go back into whatever Pokemon we want. We still got 5 Pokemon left. And I'm kind of debating with myself what I should go for. And you know what? I say screw it. Thundercat is going to clap this dude pretty easily. And it's, not really going to do too much against the Yanmega that he has left. but he can eat this hit. He can take out Squawkabilly. There's the Yanma, not Yanmega. My bad. But yeah, that thing fast without the speed boost takes us out. And at this point, it's time for Litleo to show her stuff. Lionheart comes in. We're gonna spam Ember, and this thing gets Ancient Power and gets the Omni Boost, which kind of sucks for us. It doesn't really matter because we're still able to take this thing out with 2 Embers and easily clap Falconer. And with that, we can finally get that Roost TM. Doesn't really do us any favors, but we can head over to Brock and get our first badge. Brock here is immediately going to start off with the Hippopotas, creates a sand stream, and this is hardcore mode, so that sand is sticking around until one of us is dead. I start off with the Grass Cat, go for the Razor Leaf, try to get some massive damage going, but it gets most of it back with the Berry Juice, hits it with the Toxic, and it's just not a great start, but that's really probably the best start I could have had here, all things considered. I know this thing is going to switch out, go into Cacnea, so I go into my Litleo, hits me with the Power Up Punch, which I do not appreciate. Being a normal type really sucks here. And I hit it with the Ember, and I already know that there's going to be another switch happening because, again, Doctor Strange, I've already played it out and seen all the possibilities. It goes into the Archon, I go into Luxio, and again, another switcheroo from Brock. The main boss fights definitely love to switch out into optimal Pokemon, so there's going to be a lot of musical chairs going on here. But Galarian Meowth, the Fake Out and Metal Claw is going to do a good chunk of damage, and again, Brock, his recovery items, his Pokemon just kind of tend to live forever with all this nonsense and wear you down with the Sandstorm. Another switch, he's going into the room, I go into Esper, obviously get off the Psybeam, do a good chunk of damage, he's going to fire off another Toxic, and he's just poisoning everything. You know, for the rock ground gym leader guy, he certainly has thrown out a lot of poison. But there's another musical chairs coming, Lunatone comes in, and I decide to go into the Galarian Meowth, get that Fake Out and Metal Claw again. This guy is pretty good against Brock here, is not taking the Sandstorm damage, and the Metal Claw does good, super effective damage against some of his big Pokemon here. But he gets my Barkeep down to pretty low, and I kind of want to keep it alive. So I go into the regular Meowth, who I use Fake Out with, and I probably could have just gone straight for the Bullet Seed, and that would have done the job, and that's what takes him out. Why regular Meowth with Technician gets Bullet Seed at such a low level, I don't know, but I do appreciate it. So Cacnea is in again, and at this point I'm going into Luxio, kind of thinking this thing wants to Power Up Punch kind of everything, and the Intimidate's going to help keep it in check. But again, we're still playing the musical chairs here. Cacnea goes out, and in comes Lileep. And this time I go back into Galarian Meowth. We're doing round 2 of this. The Fake Out, the Metal Claw, and hopefully, it's a good chunk of damage, and I almost got it. But I do get that Metal Claw. It gets down to a pretty low amount, and then obviously the Metal Claw again will secure the kill there. So now we're staring down 4 Pokemon. He goes back into this Cacnea, and the Sand Rush is kind of killing me here. But again, back into Luxio, and the idea here is just keep this guy's attack in check. That Power Up Punch is definitely going to get out of hand with his speed, with his Sand Rush, and the fact he's not taking any sand damage here. Eventually, he just gets tired of me doing the baby doll eyes, keep the attack low, and go straight for the Bullet Seed. Gets rid of the Luxio. I think we're fine with that for now. So I send in the regular Meowth, get that Technician boosted, stab, Fake Out, and finish it off with the Fury Swipes. So that's a huge threat. It was probably the main threat out of the way, to be honest. That thing outspeeding everything. Goes back into Archon, and at this point, I'm kind of confused here because the guy's gone off script. I know I said it's all predetermined. I've already done the fight, but it played out a different way when I done this fight earlier, so that's why I'm really hesitating here, going back and forth. I'm like kind of confused. In the end, it ends up being not that big of a deal, but Brock going off script kind of throws me for a loop, and it will probably be a problem later on with the other boss fights if I can't really predict exactly how it's going to go. So I'm kind of mulling over my options here, trying to figure out what's the best way to just do this on the fly. And I go into Lionheart, who eats a facade and somehow survives and recovers a little bit. I go for this Noble Roar to just kind of help keep the attack of Archon in check while I go into my actual answer here, which is the Grass Cat. And we're just going to be spamming Razor Leafs. I know I can eat a couple of these Rock Tombs at this point, but this isn't helping with being slower. But that second Razor Leaf does secure the kill for us. And now we're just kind of back into autopilot. Varoom comes out, and of course I send out my Cat crit hit speed drop, but I do manage to survive long enough to get the Psy Beam off and get rid of the Varoom. And at this point, he is down to his last Pokemon, that Hippopotas from the very beginning we haven't seen since he set the sand. And he is going to get the Bulldoze kill off my Esper. And at this point, it's just kind of an easy win. I outspeed it, I hit the Razor Leaf, and that is game. So there it is. We have our first badge mono cat run is holding up. We're doing things out here. We're getting work done. And that will be the end of part 1. I'll have part 2 up next week. So go ahead and subscribe if you want to see how these cats scratch Misty's eyes out.